Hello everyone, my name is Cameron Avesk Davis and I'm the proprietor of Hella's Hand Productions, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This video will be the first in hopefully a series of videos where I describe the process I went through to produce different tracks that I have produced over the years. I figured that going through and explaining how I produce music in a much more bite-sized fashion than actually watching the full streams that I do would be fun as an introduction to like how somebody might create music using a DAW and their computer. Computer music is super accessible nowadays, which is one reason I absolutely love it, and I hope to get more people into making music on their own and inspired to take up this hobby or make it a career or whatever they want to do. So without further ado, let's get started. This first episode will be going into the song Back in Time, which is from my latest album Stream Trax Volume 1, which you can get on camaveskdavis.bandcamp.com right now for $5 or however much you want to pay. So first with this song, I created a chord progression with a pad using Toxic Biohazard, a 6-oscillator synthesizer that Image Line, the people who created FL Studio, make. I then edited a Angel Voice pad preset to sound a little bit different so that it sounded something like this. And that sounds very airy and nice. I then, of course, since this was aiming to be a trance song, I had to add a very driving constant rhythm. And that constant driving rhythm started with a ride. And this is just a ride cymbal from Vengeance Samples. On this Vengeance Samples ride, I also put a parametric EQ, boosting some of the low parts and just leaving the high parts as they are. And I added a thing called Sausage Fattener, which is by Dada Life, a house duo from like Germany or Sweden or something like that. Whatever, it makes your things fat. This song also starts with a kick drum, which has a very similar setup, boosting on around 80, and the top with a Sausage Fattener up pretty high so that it comes in nice and punchy. And I also have this, which is 3X Oscillator, which is a 3-oscillator synthesizer. You can use it for chiptune stuff and whatnot because there's not much you can do with editing each of the oscillators as they come through. It also has a very good white noise generator. And with a white noise generator, something that you can do is add a little bit of delay, which is echo for those who don't know, and do a low-pass filter so that it sounds like this. That's a very classic trancey and EDM method for swooshing in and out of, like, doing transitions. I also have a crash cymbal, which is just a crash cymbal with similar EQing, Sausage Fattener, just to make it big and come through the mix. The oscillator itself has a little bit of Fruity Delay 3, which is the echo, as I've said, and the Karma FX filter, which is a free filter that is extremely good. So when it starts out, it sounds like this. Etc. It then builds into sort of a mini drop with a reverse crash cymbal here. It's just the exact same crash from before, but I made it last 2 measures and reset the pitch so that it stays on pitch with the crash when it comes in. And then I also added this, which is a Synth 1 is one of my favorite 2-oscillator synthesizers. It's also completely free, and you can grab it on the internet. This is making this noise. A very punchy sort of slightly detuned square wave with some added nonsense here. I believe I also have an EQ to boost some of the bass, and Sound Goodizer, which is sort of a compressor and limiter, I believe, and EQ all combined into one. C makes a sort of darker boost. I also have Blood Overdrive to give it a little more punch, and a limiter for no reason at all, apparently. And then the kick comes in, as you would with a 4-to-the-4 kick. And I also added this. This is another synthesizer from Synth 1. And this is what is known as a super saw, which is a saw wave, which is one of these triangle thingies, and a lot of detuning, some unison, meaning that it's playing 3 different separate ones of the same patch all at the same time, with some detuning, and all the unison ones are up by 12 tones, which means up an octave, and some chorus, which just makes it sound bigger. And that pattern is doing this. So all combined, when it all comes in, it sounds like this. And that all builds in with a filter as well. And then every 8 bars, I have the drums cut out, and then a sort of pickup beat does this. 2, 3. Then it drops into the verse itself. The first verse has this syn pluck thing, which is using Flex. Flex is just a big preset library that you can get with FL Studio. It is doing this sound. Just that over and over again. And I've also got this bass with Citrus, a extremely versatile and extremely complicated synthesizer. I basically took Cerbera Saw here and edited it slightly so that it made the sound that I wanted. And that is doing a bass line underneath it. And then after 8 bars, the strings come in. This is using Play, which is East West Studio Orchestra. I'm currently using a 70-piece string orchestra to make it really simple, and that's doing its own thing. Etc. So that whole section, of course, drops into it.
Remember that day, it was cold and dreary. We held our hands and we walked through the snow, and it was perfect because of you.
The next, the vocals I should talk about as well. These are me recording some vocals into my microphone, and they have a lot of shit going on. First off, an EQ. My voice sits around 2700 hertz generally. That's where the main pitch is of my voice. I also have pitcher on there, just going at a medium speed, but to keep me in D major nicely. Pitcher is FL Studio's auto-tune. I've got a limiter here just to boost my voice a bit. I've got Sound Goodizer on to A, which brightens up the sound a lot. And I have Karma FX Reverb, which is a free reverb plugin that's pretty good, just to make it sound bigger. Then the next section, I have this thing. The pluck starts doing very exciting stuff. The strings drop out in favor of this. Also Super Saw, that's a little lighter, that's coming in as an arpeggiator. It's using these chords that I have written here. It's sort of bouncing on 16th notes between these pitches that I have written, which sounds eventually like this. And that is coming in a high-pass filter, which means it's starting with only the very high frequencies and letting the low frequencies come in over time. On this big build, it then eventually builds into the drop for the chorus, and the chorus has this Super Saw that does a little step up to bring us into the chorus. And then I also have these transitional elements using that same Super Saw that starts from a sort of medium velocity, meaning it's not hitting super hard, and goes all the way to the top as it builds into the drops. And then I also have the swooshes here as well, so the build eventually sounds like this. And then the chorus is not super interesting, actually, as far as like complicatedness. The synth goes back to its normal thing that we had before. The strings come in full force. And this is, the arpeggiation is going full force. And other than that, the only exciting thing that's happening here is that we actually have a full kick and clap pattern, which is making it very trancey. Which drops out every 8 bars in favor of one of these pickup beat things. And the vocals here are double tracked, which means I sang it twice and layered them on top of one another, and they have all this shit that it had before, except I turned on yet another Sound Goodizer to max, and I added some delay, so some echo, so that the chorus is all epic sounding. The next section cuts out quite a lot, just in favor of this bass line, the kick and clap thing, the arpeggiation, and another double-tracked vocal line, which has most of the same stuff going on, except for the delay. Important note, I also have changed the filter for the arpeggiator so that it comes in slowly, and then in 8 bars it comes in slowly again. And then it drops back into the chorus, and there is nothing new about this chorus. It is exactly the same as before. The only difference is on the second chorus here, the supersaw line, which normally sounds like this, now adds a bunch of extra notes. But other than that, it is exactly the same chorus as always. And for the playoff, which is useful for when you're trying to mix EDM, you want to give enough drum beats and stuff for another song to come in. I have just the chorus playing again as far as vocals go, and just the bass line and the drums. And after another reverse crash cymbal into a normal crash cymbal, we just play that bass line, the drums, and everything till the end, where we end on a final crash cymbal and kick. So I hope that was an informative look at just one of my songs and how I sort of went through and created it in FL Studio. I will be creating more of these and cutting them down and whatnot. But if you enjoyed that, please enjoy the actual full song in its entirety. Here is Back in Time by Cameron of S. Davis. Thank you for watching.
It was cold and dreary. We held our hands and we walked through the snow. I remember that day like it was yesterday. It was perfect, that I knew, and it was perfect because of you.